Today's story is Arty's Dragon by Hilary, who's a friend of mine. Arty was always getting into mischief. He seemed to find all the wrong type of things to do without trying too hard. One morning, as he was sauntering across the school hall, he noticed a large box sitting on a bench. The box was covered in signs which read, "Caution, do not open." Yellow and black tape surrounded it. On every side of the box there were perforations which looked like air holes, and through some of the openings pieces of straw poked out. As Arty got closer, a roar emanated from the box, making Arty jump back a few paces. "What on earth's in there?" thought Arty. Not wanting to draw attention to himself or the box, Arty returned to his classroom to join in with the activities planned for the day. However, he couldn't stop his mind wandering back to the hall. Obviously something living was in that box. But what? He had never before heard sounds like those he heard this morning. Why and who had placed caution tape around it? Arty thought it must be something really dangerous, and he decided he was going to find out what. But how? The hall was often in use, which meant he would have to think carefully about a plan of action. During break, Arty sat on a bench in the playground, determined to come up with one. He didn't think he would be able to do anything during the day, which meant he would have to stay behind after school. His mum wouldn't notice if he was a little late, as she was out at work all day, and he knew that the teachers had a meeting after school. Feeling happier that it was sorted, he got up and went to play line tag with his friends. The day seemed to drag on endlessly. Finally, the bell went for the end of the day and everyone hurried off home. Arty, unlike the others, hung around in the toilets until the coast was clear. As soon as he felt the school was deserted, Arty crept out of his hiding place. Entering the hall, Arty tiptoed quietly toward the box. He didn't want to disturb the creature. No sound was coming from it, but Arty was sure there was something inside. Slowly but surely, Arty edged nearer to the box. Sure enough, he could just about hear the slow, steady breathing of whatever was inside. "Hello," said Arty tentatively. "I don't want to hurt you. I just want to see you." Arty heard a slight rustling from within the box. Breathing deeply, he gently started to pry open the lid of the box. A slight hissing sound came from within, but he continued very, very carefully to lift the lid. Finally, it was open and Arty took a peep inside. Lying there was the most glorious creature he had ever seen. It was a tiny, perfectly formed dragon with exquisite colouring ranging from azure blue to cosmos pink, and coming from its nose were little puffs of smoke. Where had this beautiful creature come from? How had it got to his school? Questions filled Arty's mind, but he just wanted to touch it now. Very carefully, Arty reached into the box and picked the dragon up. It felt warm. He stroked the small head and the dragon's large eyes looked up at him and blinked. It seemed to understand that there was no need to worry. All of a sudden, a loud crash came from the staff room. Before he could stop it, the dragon took off from his hand and flew off round the hall. After a while, it came to rest on a high window ledge. No matter how hard he tried, Arty could not get the dragon to come down. What on earth was he going to do now? His mum would be home soon, and he was sure the teachers would be finishing their staff meeting shortly. Arty sat down on the floor of the hall and put his head in his hands. He felt miserable. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He hadn't noticed the old school caretaker coming into the hall because he'd felt so upset. "I think you've got a problem, young man," the caretaker whispered to Arty. "I might be able to help you." "You can?" Arty exclaimed, holding back the tears. I was only curious to see what was in the box. I didn't mean any harm." "I know, lad," the old man said, "but we've got to figure a way of getting this little chappie back in his box. Do you want to know a little bit about him first, though?" "Yes, please," Arty cried. "Well, a while ago I found an egg in the playground. It looked just like a normal egg and was completely intact. I thought it'd be great to have it to show the children sometime. So I brought it in and put it in my cupboard. With everything else going on in school, I soon forgot all about it. That was until last night." "What happened last night?" Arty exclaimed. "I was going about my normal business when suddenly I heard a little scratching noise coming from the corner of my room. I took a quick look and saw the egg I'd found in the playground, only now it was 3 times larger than it had been at first. I was amazed. I watched carefully to see what had happened, and not long after, this little chap hatched. I was shocked. I'd never seen such a beautiful creature in all my life. I got my computer out to see what it was. It's a type of dragon called a minus humph. They're found all over the world, but mostly in this part of Britain. The adults only come out at night, and because they're so small, they often get mistaken for bats. They have the ability to shroud themselves in invisibility so that only certain special people can see them and their hideouts. That's why only you've been able to see the box. This one's egg must have dropped from a nest somewhere in the old oak tree in the playground. Our job now is to get this little fella back to its mum before anyone else sees it. Can you help me?" "Yes," said Arty excitedly. "How are we going to do that, though? He seems to have settled on that ledge. He doesn't want to come down." "Well," says the caretaker, taking off his cap and mopping his brow, "when I was reading about them last night, it said that they like to eat fruit like bananas, grapes and oranges. If we were to get some from the fruit basket in reception, we could, perhaps, entice him down to the box. Go quickly and see if you can find some." Arty quickly dashed through to the reception classrooms. In the first one, there was no fruit, and he began to feel that this idea wasn't going to work. Nevertheless, he went into the next classroom, and there on the floor was a basket with 1 orange in it. "Hope he likes oranges," thought Arty to himself. Rushing back quickly to the hall, Arty handed the orange to the caretaker. After carefully peeling it, the caretaker laid the orange segments out in a trail to the box. Then they both stepped back to give the little dragon a bit of space. At first, nothing happened. Arty was beginning to think the dragon would never come down when, with a flash of his brightly coloured wings, the tiny dragon flew down to the orange trail. It seemed to take ages for the dragon to eat the first segment, but he moved on to the next, and the next, and the next. It was working. Finally, he arrived at the box and with one little snort from his nostrils, jumped in and snuggled down in the nest that the caretaker had made for him. Gently, the caretaker closed the lid. Together, he and Arty carried the box out into the playground toward the old oak tree. Arty still couldn't quite believe that a family of mini dragons lived in it, and he had never seen them before now. They put the box gently on the ground, lifted the lid, and stepped back. For a while, it all went quiet. Then, from somewhere deep in the oak tree, a slight rumbling could be heard. Quick as a flash, the little dragon hopped onto the edge of the box, flew up into the branches of the tree, and disappeared from view. He was home. Although Arty had only met the dragon for a short period of time, he felt sad. He felt sad that he probably would never see him again. He felt sad that he wouldn't be able to tell his friends about it. The caretaker had told him not to. He felt sad that no one, apart from the caretaker, would ever know of the existence of a tiny family of dragons living in his school. He walked back towards the school and, taking one last look over his shoulder at the oak tree, said a final goodbye to the little dragon. Or was it?